Okay, welcome everybody. I think it's going to be a rolling group, so I'm just going to get started. So as I was saying, this deck is going to be mostly a representation of our residency program, which is actually not too different than what we are going to do with our space cohort, with one simple adjustment from our last cohort to this, which is that we're shifting the program virtually, and we're doing it for a variety of reasons. VSG residency program, within the name residency, means that these teams are actually incubating in person with us in LA in the Marina office at ISI. That really limits our ability to reach space teams because it's such a strict and narrow, location. And we want to make sure that we are really creating a community that's useful, not just to the teams, but to the mentors. We're basically stepping out into the world of space technology and innovation at VSG. We have all the right partners. Now we're trying to get the right teams involved. And so we don't want to narrow our ability to meet the right teams. So we're making it a national program. With that, unless you guys want crazy bills flying in so that you can use the space 3 times a day, which is usually a criteria for the residency program, we figured let's just shift some of our in-person programming virtually to support you guys. And actually, most of our programs that we provide the residents outside of just a handful are already virtual because of the pandemic shifting a lot of them virtually and us finding value in that kind of virtual space.
Arcelia, isn't it though? It's also in person if you choose to, right?
Yes, thank you, Tom. So
it's not just virtual. It's just that we're opening up to other geographies where it's not possible for the team to come in.
So Sam, we're not going to kick you out. You're still with us. And so yeah, so if you are an LA resident and you do love the idea of sharing office space and being around other innovators, especially those who are not within your industry or area of expertise, which is super valuable, yeah, you will have that opportunity as well. We're just not limiting it in that way. So I'm just gonna jump ahead and get it started. So I think the most important element, especially for space teams, is the concept of IP, because what you guys are developing in a lot of cases is pretty interesting and unique intellectual property that may or may not be owned in part by universities that you're developing that technology on. I understand that a lot of teams, come from research, and research institutions can sometimes be at educational institutions. And so with that in mind, if you are already sharing your IP with your university, that's still technically the case. But any IP that you develop with us, although we are affiliated with USC, none of it is going to be owned in part by the university. And that's kind of a big deal, especially for teams who want to keep their IP safe. And also the garage is a free resource. So, a lot of accelerator programs out there take equity and invest. There's no exchange in capital or ownership of your business at VSG. And so that's kind of what makes us unique in the landscape. It's just a bill that we pay in order to help you guys achieve your goals and make way towards whatever success looks like for you. And we thank the university and Giannis Yortsos at Viterbi for fitting that bill year after year. So this is kind of, again, a little bit more of like the residency program, but if you are an LA team, this definitely applies to you as well. We have made this slide specifically because the VSG has gone through many iterations, and the ghosts of its past haunt us every day. And even people on campus, faculty, people who work in other schools or departments in innovation remember VSG past and will tell students and faculty and staff members about a VSG that no longer exists. So we like to make sure that we help you guys to understand what that is so that we're not answering frequently asked questions throughout the year, all year long. So, you know, we give office space and we provide all sorts of programming, and we assist you in the business development of your of what it is that you are building. And we help you with that in a lot of the key ways that teams in the early stages of development really need. But what we're not doing is providing you, you know, a tech co-lead. Just because we're part of the engineering school and we do have access to a lot of great talent, we're not like a matchmaking service in that particular way. So if you're a business person and you're thinking about, you know, having some sort of dual use for your product, and you're hoping some space expert that we know will come in and join your team and help you to leverage that, that's not exactly what we do. Although we do provide a lot of great opportunities for networking connections so that you can pick up that ball and run with it if it is something that you need. And honestly, it's a very common tale at VSG and probably at many accelerators and incubators when co-founders, you know, decide to go their separate ways. And at some point, somebody's left as a solo founder managing their business, and they are actually looking for another partner in crime. And so we definitely support that process, but that's not what we do. Let's see next. Okay, so these are the programs that you will be able to benefit from. The one major, and I would imagine just as someone who facilitates it, challenging one is Founder Circle, because it happens to be our way of building relationships between founders in each of our cohort, which is by and large so much easier to do in person. You know, to sit around a table, eat lunch, and talk to each other about our unique goals and what we're doing, and really get to know each other. So Founder Circle for the Space Cohort will be virtual, and it'll be my responsibility to find that, you know, that special sauce that's going to make it so that you guys can still build that relationship community that a lot of founders would suggest is the best part of VSG. And we do that just by logging on and having updates based off of OKRs that you guys submit to us on a quarterly basis. So each quarter, I send out a form. You guys tell us what your plans are for that quarter and predictions for your next, and it serves as the skeleton for that meeting. But most of the time, it's just us chatting and commiserating and helping each other out. And we just use that format to kind of keep the train on the tracks. Oceanside Chats are basically a speaker series that happen virtually, that have been going on, that all of you guys actually have access to. It's a public-facing program, and it's where we get our mentorship, our looser specialist mentors in business. We'll get into the space program-specific mentorship opportunities a little bit later, but if you are building a business, you know, sometimes you need more than technical experts coming in and telling you what to do or how to think, or strategically guiding you in how to do business. And so that's what the Oceanside Chats are meant to do. It's a really kind of a soft touch at connections with specialists who come and do talks with us, but then offer one-on-one office hours and stay within the Rolodex of support for warm introductions later. And there's a library of those in case you guys want to kind of see who's talked before and see if there's a conversation, I mean, an Oceanside Chat that might benefit you now. Legal clinics and VC Angel office hours are ways for us to help you, you know, get your business underway. So for instance, with our legal clinics, those happen bi-monthly, and we have a man by the name of Kevin DeGray. He comes and he basically answers questions about you know, legal issues that you might foresee or have questions about. I mean, this is our internal resource. We don't share this with the public. Some of you may or may not know how expensive legal services are. And at an early stage, startups really don't have the capital to get somebody, you know, in it, to look under the hood and to make sure that they're doing their contracts right, and that their you know, agreements are appropriate, and that they're not really making huge mistakes and errors that are going to cost them their business down the line. And so Kevin DeBray comes in and helps out in that way. Where VC Angel Office Hours is our way of interacting with our investor friends to help make sure that you guys aren't making mistakes when you're pitching your business. I think the big difference between teams that are in our residency program, general tech startups, and more space specific startups are how you guys get your funding. I think there's probably more of a need for support and expertise in grant funding and SBIR, which is something that we are working towards making sure we have just as much support in that regard as we do in just general venture capital and angel investment. The ISI Tech Exchange, I think, would be most useful for our space teams versus our regular cohort, just because the Information Sciences Institute is really kind of working hard to be at the cutting edge of all sorts of technology. And let's face it, space is one of those areas of technology. We're not, you know, it's not a walk in the park. And so these experts at ISI engage with us as often as we want to engage with them. And we try to formalize it through a tech exchange opportunity. And they're doing a ton of stuff already within the confines of ISI, which teams are usually able to join while they are a part of VSG. And then the last is Summer Smasher. This is where we help teams get 8 weeks of support from students, from skilled students, undergrad and graduate students, to come do projects for their business. It happens once a year, and it's an excellent program for a few different reasons. Number one, it really is just nice to have support. Sometimes you're building your business all on your own, and just to have a team of students tackling little projects here, there, and everywhere can really provide a level of energy insurgence that a lot of teams really benefit from. But more than anything, I think it helps you as an early CEO of your business understand how to build departments, do onboarding, manage teams, delegate, check in, because it might actually be the first team that you're managing for your business. I'm going to do resources, and then I'm going to stop for questions. So the resources, again, I think I mean, a lot of it is stuff that you guys have already heard in the programming. The office is available for LA teams, which is all of that stuff, you know, the desks, the conference breakout rooms, the snacks, the coffee, you name it. And then the virtual stuff, I think, is, well, everything will be virtual, will be how we build our unique space community. So I'm going to stop there before we move on to Tom.
And it's right by the beach, by the way. Maybe you should point that out.
Oh, that
your facilities. if you come into the office,
we overlook the marina. It is beautiful. Yeah, I think, and also, you know, it's very close to the airport, which matters if you're hosting. You know, sometimes if you have a board, or if you're developing your board, or if you have investors that you want to talk with, and they're flying in, you know, it's actually a hop, skip, and a jump away from the airport. And I guess I'll mention that, you know, as a home for your business, it kind of remains a home. I like to think of myself as like a mom to you and what you need. And so, you know, mothers notoriously let their children move back in anytime they need, especially if it's for really good reasons. And so, yeah, I invite teams that have graduated to come and use the conference rooms for meetings and to have their stand-ups once they've evolved out of the space. It only adds to our community. And so, yeah, even if you are not an LA team and you happen to be in LA for whatever reason, you can come to the garage and feel like it's where you're meant to be. Do we have any questions before we move into our relationship with the Aerospace Corporation? Yeah, Sam.
If we were to be involved with the ISI Tech Exchange, do we need to have a agreement with the university or with ISI beforehand?
And by that, what do you mean by engaged?
Let's say if there's like a technical review they help us do, or we do a project together, is that a separate entity from USC itself, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think ISI engagements are pretty informal and they're meant to be that way. Any formalization of, for instance, an advisor role or anything like that would be managed like any other new relationship. There's obviously, needs and concerns from both sides that get negotiated and worked out to make sure that everybody's in agreement with what's going on in that moment. But yeah, I think like the way that it works is that we're just basically connecting two groups that are genuinely interested in innovation and want to have conversations around it. And we try to keep the topics relevant for the teams, especially if they have a technical challenge that they're looking to tackle that they'd like some experts to weigh in on. And we do it all over kind of like wine and cheese to make sure everybody's happy and lubricated and wanting to just talk. Yeah, but then what happens after that is really up to the teams and whoever, all of the researchers who decide to attend.
I think, Sam, if you were doing a joint research project with USC directly with faculty, there would be a separate agreement with NDAs and that sort of thing, an agreement ahead of time. So those would be on an individualized basis.
I see. So are ISI employees faculty, or?
Some of them are, yeah. So ISI is comprised of faculty researchers, PhD students, probably some master students. I don't know how many undergrad students are at ISI, but maybe some too. It works as a research institution. And so research, has its various levels of hierarchical management. But yeah, so for the most part, though, it's faculty and PhD students.
Makes sense. All right, thank you.
The institute is where the cohort, the incubator, is actually housed physically, but you would have access to other faculty, outside of ISI and so on, and within even the Aerospace Corporation, that sort of thing, which can be arranged, right?
Perfect.
Through Arcelia and others.
We'll definitely talk a lot more with the Aerospace Corporation.
Great. Okay, so Tom, unless there are any other questions from the group, I'll let you take it away.
Sure, that was a good segue into just a brief intro about myself. So I think it's useful to understand what my background and experience is. So the way I would describe myself is I'm an experienced senior executive with over 30 years of proven relevant success with a mix of companies, entities from Fortune 50 companies to VC-funded startups, as well as academia. And then most recently, I'm with the Aerospace Corporation, where I'm head up our research and technology collaboration office here, which you'll learn more about the Aerospace Corporation in a second, where we form partnerships and alliances with commercial companies, with universities, and I look to have our principal investigators within our R&D facilities look for new types of funding opportunities as well, which could happen in collaboration with groups in the incubator as well. So, great.
It's an incredibly exciting time to be working in the aerospace field where things are rapidly evolving every day, and that's exactly what I get to do here at the Aerospace Corporation. We're living in the future. There's things that we're doing in space that we could only have dreamt of even a few years ago.
think that's the great thing about the space industry, is that you can work in a wide variety of fields and still be contributing to aerospace.
Space is ever-changing. It's constantly growing, and the technology that goes with it is also changing as well. So it's really great to see everything as it goes through those changes, and aerospace is leading all of that.
Space is contested, congested, and competitive. And yeah, it's really cool to see aerospace really take on those challenges and solve the problems that we need to solve to protect what is worth protecting.
All right. I love that video. Oops.
Very sorry. I'm trying to advance and not play it. Let me see.
You
There
gotta
it
go to the, there we go. Well, actually, I love that video because those are some of our scientists within our physical sciences labs here in my group here at Aerospace Corporation. They're just very interesting people, and I think you can sense their enthusiasm. And those are some of the types of people that are, you can potentially collaborate with as part of the space cohort if you become a part of it. So what I wanted to do initially was just to give you a brief overview as to who the Aerospace Corporation is. A lot of people don't know about the Aerospace Corporation. So we're a nonprofit, federally funded research and development center where we're funded primarily by the US government. We do partner with outside companies and generate additional revenues from that. We receive over $1 billion a year from the US government, and then a few $100 million in additional funding outside. And in 2021, our revenues were approximately 1.16. We're doing about $1.4 billion in revenue right now, on track for that. We have about 4,000 employees across the United States, and in El Segundo, we have a little over 3,000. We have a pretty wide mix of educated employees here at the Aerospace Corporation. Most of the employees here are engineers, and lots within our physical sciences lab. Within my group, we have over 70% of those individuals are actually PhDs. And so it's a mix. So I'd go to the next slide, Arcelia. So we're geographically dispersed around the United States in areas that, we try to be close to our space customers, the various NASA groups and Air Force space-related entities. Our headquarters on this slide is actually headquartered in El Segundo. We recently, a couple of days ago, we made a fairly strategic, it's a fairly big announcement where the headquarters from a strategic standpoint is going to be headquartered in the Washington, D.C. area in our Chantilly, Virginia office. That just means that we're illustrating to the government, the Space Force, especially in the Pentagon area, that we're trying to be as close to them as possible. It doesn't really impact the people here in El Segundo per se, but our CEO will be more focused in that area to let our customers know that he can just drive over to the Pentagon or to the Space Force and whatnot. We're actually physically in El Segundo, located across from the Space Command Center. If you know geographically, we're close to the airport in Los Angeles, and there's actually a bridge that we can cross to go back and forth over that base. All right, next slide. We're a pretty diverse organization as well. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. So we have a mix. We have lots of women engineers. We have people from different ethnic backgrounds and whatnot, all throughout the organization. And we take pride in that. So we're a matrixed organization, and we try to align our research and the focus areas with the space community. We do that so that we can be rapid in the way that we respond to what our customers want. And these are just some of the areas that we like to highlight that are linked to some of the areas you may be interested in from a tech standpoint: launch, subsystems, satellites, propulsion systems, things like that, and the types of customers that we work with. When you look specifically at Aerospace Corporation, we have different groups. And I think that as startups, your technology is going to fall within one of these areas. I think it's nice to take a look at that and to see what types of systems and then the types of solution that you have. Obviously, software development is involved in all of these areas, but we can give you access to most of the subject matter experts within each one of these areas. I'm physically housed within that physical sciences laboratory section, which we have over 300 labs that are focused in, these are just some examples at far right vertical. You can see the types of things. And lots of things can fall within, like laser applications, optical communications. We have a material science group here. We're developing new materials, hypersonics, all sorts of things. It's actually pretty interesting. Next slide. And then, of course, the actual space programs. I think it's useful for you to see the types of things from a systems perspective that we're involved with. I think if you go back and look at this, you can get a better understanding as to what areas we work in from a systems perspective. Lots going on in GPS right now, things like that. Okay, next slide. Oh, that's it. So I think that's more of a resource. But the bottom line is we're pretty diversified, but focused in the space industry. That's why I think, obviously it makes sense for us to, while we're working with USC Viterbi in their garage, to make this a space-focused cohort, because that's what we bring to the table. You would have access to lots of knowledge and types, value-added services that we can offer you guys here at the Aerospace Corporation. So I'll hand it back to Arcelia, and perhaps there's some Q&A.
Yeah, do you guys have any questions regarding the specific space support systems that we are working towards providing you guys as teams in the cohorts? If you don't, I can just talk a little bit about, our hopes. Oh, you got something?
Sam might have
Some
one.
in the chat.
I'm not managing the chat at all. Let's see. Question to Tom. Can you help with ATO process? Do you help with testing for certifications like NIAP?
I suspect we have expertise in that area and we can make it happen. So in my particular case, I can sort of act as a traffic cop for you and point you in the right direction and find the right subject matter expert that can actually help you in that area. So one of the things I forgot. Oh, go ahead, Arcelia. Did I cut you off?
No, you can go ahead if you're still on that question.
Well, I was going to say one thing I think I should point out that since you'll be applicants to the cohort, unless you're already in the cohort, the types of things we're looking for, one of the questions that often comes up is, what are you looking for in an applicant? So we're looking for three things. We're kind of evaluating the space utility of your technology, of your potential business, the technical merit of that, and then, of course, the commercialization potential that might be there for that. So we're kind of looking at those three things. But we cast a pretty wide net, because in the space sector, if you even just understand what's going on in 3D printing, the government, the world wants to build buildings on the moon, for example. and they're 3D printing those types of things. And there's lots of applications that and innovations that could help that along and stuff like that. So it encompasses a pretty wide mix, including software and even the fabric of what an astronaut might have in their spacesuit, things like that. It's very interesting.
Another question from Bart is, do you have flight experiment lab with satellites in orbit, which we can deploy our solution?
So we can oftentimes help commercial entities find a ride, if that's what where you're saying, getting a ride into space. So we can help in that area if it's the right type of solution and equipment. Oftentimes there's space on a particular launch that our group or other groups, there's a certain amount of space on a particular payload, and it's available. And if our customer agrees to drop your solution in there, you essentially get a free ride, which is really awesome.
Yeah, that is amazing. Another question is, does aerospace have cybersecurity solutions that you provide to DoD?
Yes, we do. We have all sorts. We have an entire cybersecurity group here. And so actually ISI is pretty experienced in that sector as well at USC and Viterbi.
And then I think this might be the last question from Bart is, it's programmatic. How long is the program? It's 1 year. With the potential for extension, we offer an extension of 6 months to teams who are interested. I think we'll do that for the space cohort as well. And usually it's because there's just more to be done. And, you know, depending on the application and the incoming cohort, all sorts of pieces of information kind of help us to determine which teams to extend and which not. But we've limited recently. We used to allow teams to apply for extension year after year, but we've recently decided that we only allow for 1 extension per cycle. Mm-hmm. And what's the weekly and hourly commitment? So, you know, there's Founder Circle, which everyone should be on the hook for, just because if you intend to engage with the other founders in your cohort, that's where it's going to happen. And that runs an hour and a half, and virtually that might be tough. So it might be limited down to an hour, and we'll just be really good about it. But, you know, prepare for about an hour and a half commitment for Founder Circle. All the rest of the programmatic value is, and this is the same for our residency program. It's what you want out of it. So we're providing it. We're here, we're ready. If there's something that you need that you don't see in our program, you can ask for it. One of the ways that we've been able to take VSG from where it was in 2018 to where it is now is by being incredibly sensitive to the needs of the teams that we have year after year, and building out more unique resources and connections and abilities for the teams. And so really it's, you know, come in with the expectation to be kind of a squeaky wheel. If you come and you do very little, you'll gain very little. And so it's really about what you intend to take out of the situation. It's access, basically. I
think Sam also went at the beginning before we were getting started, he was talking about looking for additional funding, and he was in the process of doing that. So I think that the garage also has, through some of its leadership, access to potential avenues for capital acquisition, venture capital connections, things like that as well.
Oh yeah. And then we have some raised hands. So we have Bogdan, if you're happy to unmute yourself.
Hi. Hello. Can you hear me? Over. Yeah. Hi. I'm a bit older than the crew here, so I'm not a student anymore. I'm a recovering professor, but I have specific questions. I have been working on onboard autonomy algorithms. We have some NASA. We just finished a NASA SBR phase 1, STTRs, and so on and so forth. So I have a specific question for Tom. if we have something as basic as
You just broke up there for a second. I didn't hear the.
Sorry.
If you have, okay.
Yeah, let me turn on my camera because we're installing here. We're coming from Hawaii. Yeah, so I have a specific algorithm, let's say an estimator for rendezvous and proximity operations for relative navigation. And I know Aerospace has done a bit of, I forgot the name of the CubeSats. You've done some of that work. Can we talk to you and your crews who are interested in RP, rendezvous and proximity operations, to fly our estimation algorithm on board as a hosted payload? And I'm doing quotes here. Over.
Well, that's a good question. We would always be interested in chatting with you. We would have an NDA in place to make sure that you know that your information is safe with us, and then we would just essentially see where it might go from there. So,
okay.
there's never a guarantee, is what I'm trying to
yeah.
say. But there's, if you have
Sure.
something unique and innovative, I'm sure there's something that, we would can potentially work out. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And then we have a question from Aaron.
Hey, Arcelia, it's good to see you. I just wanted to pose, just curious how venture funds, like early stage venture funds like AeroX Ventures that I run, can be collaborative in these efforts, if it's now or if it's later. I'm just curious.
Aaron, I just appreciate you for even joining us today.
It's
so proactive, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. Our group is limited, but this video will live in perpetuity. Aaron is a perfect example of someone who's engaged with us, who's obviously interested in having more opportunities to connect with space appropriate teams. And yeah, so I think what this space cohort is going to do is allow me kind of on the back end to organize my connections that will support these types of ventures in a way that we can be a little bit more strategic because right now we really do kind of just open up the closet and it's like, well, here's all the clothes, what fits you, at USC or with students or researchers. This is really VSG's first time narrowing its kind of focus on specific types of technology. And so, yeah, part of that growth of that community is going to be to engage specifically with organizations like yours. And so, it one step at a time. And
Sure.
our first step is getting this cohort and understanding which teams we have this cycle. Something that Tom had mentioned is, the criteria is a super wide funnel. We're casting a huge net. We're going to see what we catch. And through this kind of initial step in this direction, we're probably going to do our own form of customer discovery and really learn what we can do with all of our great support systems. The Aerospace Corporation and CREST, they themselves have additional network connections. We're not limited to what they can offer. They have their own Rolodex of additional resources that they utilize in order for their organizations to function. And so, this is really just our first step in this direction.
No, that's great. I mean, just for context, happy to help if it makes sense. I don't want to step on any toes here with screening. We've helped a lot of government orgs with screening cohorts. Obviously, I'll be referring as many as I can that are well scoped. And I'm looking at this more as a USC Viterbi alum, happy to provide advice to teams on whether it be tech dev, financing. I was an engineer, so tech dev, financing, or whatever, honestly. Just happy to be helpful.
Thank you, Aaron. You actually bring up a really important point, and I think we still have Dave Eastman on the line. So we've traditionally through VSG have had innovators in residence as our mentorship group, and it's just a very small group of generalists who provide business strategic advising. And through our many Oceanside chats and relationships with people like you, we've loosely connected teams through warm introductions where it made a lot of sense. And we're starting to realize that actually, like you, people want to engage not in a completely formalized way, but in a little bit more of like an organized way. And so we have kicked off a mentor specialist program where you're not on the hook the way the IIRs are, but you are wanting to commit maybe more time and attention to teams that come through VSG. And so maybe you and I can talk offline about how to get on that the short list.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I still talk to Tom from Roman and the team at Aero just every three to 6 months to keep up and just be helpful. So happy to be that kind of sounding board
Let's
to
talk
teams
about
here.
it. Super. I mean, this is exactly what I'm being tasked to do, is to build this community. And so I'm super happy that you're here to help.
Great. Emails in the
Aaron,
chat
did
if
you
anyone wants to talk.
Aaron, did you mention that you're with a fund? You run a fund? Is that what I understood?
That's right. And we focus on aerospace and defense specifically.
Okay.
I mean, just for context, we just wrapped up a $15 million investment into Privateer, you know, Alex Fielding and Steve Wozniak's new space tech company. So we led their A round, and, you know, really proud of that team there. So, you know, that we're going deep into the space sector at an early stage.
That's
Aren't
right.
we all? Okay. Bogdan has a question about NASA suspending their mentor protege program. I don't know anything about that. I don't know if you know anything about that, Tom.
About what was it? That
NASA, I guess, has suspended their mentor protege program.
I was not aware of that particular program. I could look into it, but so
Yeah, we got an email a few weeks ago. I'm trying to find it here, and I cannot right now. But they suspended it for some reason. Oh, it's a moratorium. I found the email. So yeah, they suspended for some reason. I'm curious to see why.
Yeah.
well, my suspicion is that it's aligned with the recent budget cuts.
Yeah.
From the entire appropriation of, you know, the budget for the United States government. NASA took a hit in certain areas, and perhaps this is one of them. So that's probably what.
Yeah, a few of the organizations like JPL have had significant shifts in their operations and their teams and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is you know, just part of that kind of general trend.
That could be that.
Yeah.
That would be my assessment.
And I'm sure you guys are already kind of engaging in these communities, but I do know that there are a ton of new events and opportunities coming out of some of these free researchers who are looking for whatever they're going to do next. And so VSG will probably also host similar types of events to make sure that we're taking advantage of what is, you know, a little bit of a sad situation where people who are, you know, incredible experts are now more available to start things or get involved in things like startups. Bogdan, do you have
in fact, in JPL's case, we're actually hiring some of those people. So part of those people are getting peeled off. We're kind of looking at who's available and what groups need.
Yeah.
You know, because we have pretty strong, consistent funding from our space, you know, from the DoD, from the US government. So we're not always affected by that type of thing, which was a NASA specific cut. So,
or you can leave JPL and form your own company.
Or you can do that. That's right.
Yeah. I have a question for Aaron. This is Bogdan. Over.
Yep.
So Aaron, we've been to, let me see, we've been to a Space Force Technical Responsive Space a workshop in May last year, and we talked to a few VCs, and the VCs told us that if the company wants to get a $10 million funding round, we need to be valued at 100 million, so they're one order of magnitude increases, and then they look for an exit for the company of 1 billion, right? So 10, 100, 1,000. This means that, are you expecting, since you invested 1 or 15 million in Privateer, do you expect 1.5 billion of exit from Privateer? Over.
I don't want to take it in that direction. Feel free to email me if you have some specific questions, but I think we want to keep it toward the programming here.
Yeah, and Aaron actually did put his email in the chat. So if you guys want to connect with him and ask him questions about what he does, his fund, and all of that. I think like
Excellent. Thank
again,
you.
that's why he's here, which I appreciate. And then there's one more question about the program in the chat, which is about its anticipated start date. This is a very good question. You know, we will probably have a better idea once we start, you know, really pushing and marketing the application. This info session is kind of the preliminary, you know, attempt to get information about the program out. It's going to make its way to the website, which I can add into the chat at some point. You guys will get a copy of this video and all of the information you need in order to apply after. But really, we're being super flexible about how we start the program, because we want to make sure that we're taking our best foot forward, which means that, you know, we want to have a good outreach opportunity. So, and because it's virtual, there's no real need for, you know, teams to like move in, like a move-in date or for residency. So yeah, we're not trying to match it as much as we used to. The concept of having a resident program, we really wanted to kind of overlap our residency program for the space cohort. But now that we've divorced the need for that, I think we're being super flexible with the space cohort. And we're doing it intentionally because we really do want to have a good spring cohort. So I guess like keep an eye out for continuous notifications, which you'll get if you apply. You'll just be part of a list of people who get notified. Okay, so I'm just gonna push forward. I don't think there's very much left in, you know, our deck. This is just a slide about how what you know, our intention at VSG, including with the space cohort, is that we're building a community. This space specific community is, you know, strategic because of these new partnerships that are coming out of USC. You know, VSG is being tasked with managing the community aspect of these resources that have come together and really want to help teams innovate and provide their time and expertise. But we also do that through mentors that are outside of these partnerships, and, you know, investors and legal support systems that are outside of these partnerships. And those are all available to space teams as well. And space teams can also, again, participate in the way we engage with students through our Summer Smasher program. And I guess the last couple of slides are just about residency, which again, this is not necessarily so important for you guys. You can see what our kind of mother office on campus, the Technology, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship Office, does. It's very student facing, so it might not apply to you if you're not USC students. We're not a student incubator, for the record. We are taking teams with zero affiliation to the university anywhere in the United States, as long as they're domestic and space and their product has space application. It can be dual use. And so if you think you have an some sort of product that could fit within the space cohort, I encourage you to apply. Let the mentors and people who will vet that application make the decision for you. Don't self-select yourself out. And also, if you want to just apply to the general residency program because you're in LA and you're a tech team, you can do that as well. And then I always make myself available for chats, virtual chats, one-on-one, to answer more specific questions that maybe you don't want to waste everybody's time on the info session. Or, you know, if you are LA, you can book a visit and come see the space. As Tom mentioned, it is very beautiful. It overlooks the ocean. There's plenty of great places to eat right outside across the street. It's just, and then there's a Burton Chance Park is just a walk away. So, and these are huge. They sound like not such great elements, but as a founder, when you're doing everything and the world is on your shoulders, being able to take a beautiful walk down into the marina and see the ocean and some sea lions can really change the rest of your day. And so it is a very valuable space. Do you have the links for book a chat. Yeah, I'll toss everything into the, you know what I'll do, just so that I won't waste any time on this, is that I will send all of the stuff that was on this deck, including the deck, in a follow-up email to you guys. So you guys will have all of those links at your fingertips. Tom, do you have anything more else to mention?
I did want to just say a couple of things about space-based applications. So just to kind of paint a picture as to the types of things that are interesting right now, we're hearing a lot about, right now there's a push toward, let's say, wildfire detection from space, right? There's a library of data right now that we've been mapping the entire world. We have a map of the entire world, and we have sensors in space now that are looking for new technologies to even help to identify wildfires and to measure carbon emissions and things like that for a variety of applications. Could be, there are sensors in space now that can even start to identify where illegal marijuana farming is taking place on government lands and stuff like that. So there's stuff like that's really even software based that could be perhaps embraced by a startup if they have expertise in a particular area. It's not always just, what's going on from getting a rocket into space or something like that. There's all sorts of applications, right? So wanted to just say that.
Yeah, it's so fair too, because I think, especially as a business person, I mean, entrepreneurs are at heart, business-minded individuals. A lot of what we do at USC and through our office is to help support engineers think of themselves more like business people. But oftentimes, you're coming in and you're a business person and you have a business mindset. And, the markets, as we think of them, are here on Earth, right? Because we've yet to really think about how the future of business will be in space. But I think that now's the time to really be part of that conversation and really think, are you building something that would be useful in more of a space-focused business landscape? And that's why we have people like Tom and TAC to come in and help us out, because at VSG, we do know a lot about Earth business, but I don't know if we know enough about space business. So we leave it up to the experts and SMEs that are giving us time to help you guys understand that. And so, like I said before, and like Tom mentioned, don't count yourself out if there might actually be some very useful cases for your technology. And they would be the ones to know that.
That's right.
And then I don't know if Dave wants to say anything. I know he always says, don't ask me because I might be on the road, but I always feel like perhaps you're not on the road and maybe you'll have, there it is. Hey, Dave.
Hello. Nope, sorry, I was actually talking with one of our CEOs, so I got on late. But I think that you've covered it nicely.
Yeah, and again, if you guys have any specific questions, feel free to reach out. Like I said, I'll email you guys. And our website now includes, I don't know if you guys can see, hold on, let me see if I can move this out of the way. Can you guys see my webpage?
Yes.
Yeah, so we've updated it so that there's a specific page just for the space cohort. That don't mind the countdown. It's just set as our residency program. The application itself says TBD on the deadline, but at the most useful element of this website, and thank you to Tom for putting this together, is our current running list of mentor specialists, SMEs that Tom has kind of brought together to help serve as SMEs for our
and again, these are examples. These are actual scientists in our labs here that I have a personal relationship with. But if there's an area of interest to the team, I can oftentimes find who the right person is. So this is just a sample.
Not limited to these folks.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back
to a mix. It's a broad stroke, it's a brush across many areas.
if you guys are engineer types and not business types, this is really the first opportunity for you to get that entrepreneurial hat on and just ask for the world, right? Because you don't know what's available to you, and VSG is offering an exclusive opportunity to access. And so again, don't limit yourself. Bogdan, let's make this the last question, then we'll wrap it up.
Thank you. So a quick question. I saw a countdown timer. Is that 11 days or 11 weeks? You scroll too fast. Over.
Oh, it's days. But like I said, this is just set to the VSG application. And so, by VSG, I mean the residency program. So, but if you go to the actual space cohort application, the deadline is still TBD. So we're being flexible with the space program.
Thank you.
We would like, part of the reason I'm keeping it on there is because I would like applicants to apply. You know, if there's one thing I've learned about startup founders or students or anyone really, they will apply a minute to the deadline. That's when all the applications come in. And so something needs to stand there to push people to get this application in so that Tom and some of these SMEs can come together and start reviewing those applications. Yeah, so use it as the deadline if you are interested in applying. And so that's kind of what we're going to stick with for now.
And to add to that, you know, it's not infinitely flexible. This is a limited program in the sense of number of teams that we can take. And so to the extent that we get a number of great applicants early on that our friends at Aerospace have reviewed, and they say, yes, this is our group. Oh, well, the door is closed. So again, don't be tardy. Get it in as soon as you can, and we will get the review process moving.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah. And, you know, it'll be my job also to recognize where that law of diminishing return is. You know, when you're building an online community, especially a cohorted community, it can't be unlimited. We have to be able to get to know each other and to really connect. And so, yeah, I'm assuming that we'll stick exactly to how we do it at the garage, which is, you know, as soon as we have 4 or 5, maybe 6 teams that are valuable to us, that's when we'll cut it down. We'll shut off the valve. Or whatever space term would go there.
We may even offer early admission, right, Dave? Or the right since it's in college admission timing right now.
But you have to guarantee you're not doing early admit to any other space cohorts.
There you go. That would be early decision, right? So we'll see.
Yeah.
And to all of you guys out there who have other founders in mind who are working in this space, please share this with them. You know, sharing is caring. And yeah, we all look forward to your applications coming in this cycle. And thank you, Tom, for your time, and Dave for joining, and also Aaron. We appreciate you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Look forward to the review. Bye.
Bye.